if you're growing fast, just like we are, you know exactly how hard cash flow management can be. You've got customers to acquire, you've got ads to fund, you've got inventory to finance, especially if you don't want to dilute yourself by raising a round. What options do you have? Enter Wayflyer. With Wayflyer, you can get fast, flexible funding from $10K to $20 million at the best possible rates. No collateral, no dilution, just the funding you need to improve your working capital and help you grow your business. Join the thousands of businesses using Wayflyer to fund their growth. Go to wayflyer.com/pod to learn more.
Yeah, I mean, I think the important kind of differentiation between this black and white linear paid ads growth, all things growth versus the more brand holistic views, I think just LTV versus today, right? It's like we think about what does a customer feel when they purchase from our site, and how can we make them feel that kind of way for a longer period of time. Thanks for listening in. You're on Down To Chat, where we talk all things D2C. So Cody and I have had, episode 1 was a banger. Nick, the D2C guy,
The
Sharma.
DTC guy. Can't believe he graced us with his presence. Hard to get that guy. You guys have no idea how much we had to pay to get him on.
I mean, well, that, and we have to do all the sponsored by, all of his companies, which is difficult. We have to list them all out on the show notes, invested in X, Y, and Z. So that's a tough one. Now our job is how do we kind of get behind that one with just Cody?
How do we beat that? There's a lot of pressure on that one.
There is pressure. So the goal really here is some of these conversations, some of these episodes will have guests who we are friends with and thrilled to have on the pod. And some of these will just be Cody and I shooting the shit, talking about things that we're excited about. I think before we hop in, there was a psychotic test going around on Twitter, write how many beverages you currently have on your table to show what level of crazy you're at.
What do you got? How many you got?
Oh, you have 2. I have a Starbucks and a strawberry vanilla Olipop. Okay, that was ASMR-y. Not sponsored, but yeah, I mean, I think the I'd love to start this off with a conversation we first bonded over. Do you want to hop right into it?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah. I mean, obviously, you guys, if you listen to the first one, we're trying to have this be much more conversational than a normal podcast. Just like two friends who are just chilling. Really two DTC nerds. We're kind of just chilling, shooting the shit. So we're not going to go into our bios and interview each other. But yeah, essentially, I think I first started following Eli on Twitter, even before I really was that active on Twitter. And I was just who is this weirdo who's just talking about CX? Doesn't he know Facebook ads are everything? And Twitter is just for growth marketers. Who cares about CX? But obviously, just joking. But I could tell immediately that Eli had a very different perspective, really different insights, and definitely matched, but also changed the way I viewed things. So from the first time we connected, I think we hit it off because I'm not gonna say too much, blow smoke up my own ass. But I think Eli could tell I was probably looking at things from a similar lens, which is a little bit different. I mean, I don't really get along with a lot of growth marketers and Facebook ads guys because I think sometimes it can be a little bit myopic and short-sighted. And again, I'm not above anybody. I used to be very much Facebook ads are everything. One-day click ROAS is everything. Everything else is pretty much stupid. And now that couldn't be further from the case. But I think Eli and I definitely have different perspective and different viewpoints than most people. And I think we're both big brand guys. We're both huge believers in brand, and we'll definitely talk about what that means to us. But we're both trying to build a brand, and that's why I recruited him to come work with us. But I think as people who are not brand marketers, Eli's a CX and retention guy, and I'm originally a growth guy. I think the way that we think about brand is not just fluffy colors and stuff like that. We'll talk about it, but it's would you say core of everything we do, even for our growth and retention efforts?
Yeah, I mean, I think the important kind of differentiation between this black and white linear paid ads growth, all things growth versus the more brand holistic views, I think just LTV versus today, right? It's like we think about what does a customer feel when they purchase from our site, and how can we make them feel that kind of way for a longer period of time. And I think, obviously as this conversation goes forward, we'll kind of talk about the different ways that touch, the brand touches consumer. But my fascination around CX came from the other side, me as a consumer. Like, I'm super annoying. If anyone saw that, I was like, at Saks off Fifth, where's my shit this week? I was like, I ordered 1-day delivery or 2-day delivery. It's been 3 days. And somebody like replies to me saying like, as a brand owner, you should be better than this. And I'm like, I want somebody to at me if their Jones Road stuff took 5 days.
Also, like, bro, I don't own a brand. I love
That
how
too.
they think that you own it, though.
Yeah, I'm a brand owner. But
Yeah.
I think the that's where it came from. Like, I hated the idea of being a consumer of a brand where you spend money on a product and it's just like you disappear, and then it's like, oh, how do we get this customer back? So I think the retention, and we'll talk about this more of like how, I think you coined this kind of retention based in acquisition, and how the two of us
other way around, not to correct you, but yeah, acquisition rooted in retention, but same shit.
Same shit, but
Get it right.
I think exactly. I think the exciting thing is to talk about like how a growth guy and an emotional CX guy even were able to talk cohesively, which I think is fun because I honestly can't. Yeah,
Talk.
right. Like, I honestly can't talk. I honestly can't have a conversation with so many, very, very linear growth people, because it's like, okay, but like, I'm spending money to bring in customers tomorrow. How do I do this? How do I scale this? And it's like, and we talk about this often where people will build this massive brand by just growth, and then they'll hire this retention person. They'll DM this retention guy on Twitter being like, how do I fix this? Like, I've spent a ton of money. I have 1 million customers. They all love my stuff. How do I fix it? And you're like, well, if they all love your stuff, Kenny, why are they not coming back? Jeffrey.
Wait, who's Kenny? I don't know. You calling people out already? Are we getting into it?
No. I'm just thinking the most random name I can think of that came to mind first. But I think I think that's a perfect place to start this conversation of like, what does retention mean? How do you see retention as a growth marketer, as a former growth marketer on the men's big CMO energy, recovering growth guy? I'm curious to hear your take. Like, when you have to define retention, like how do you see that from a growth marketer perspective?
Let's start. Let's do that, but let's start with this like brand, right? Because I think what we're talking about is like building a brand, and that's super subjective. But I think if we can kind of talk about what that means to both of us, I'll start. Is like, I think what we're trying to do, and when we talk about brand, it's not like we're trying to build logos, colors, stuff like that, right? To me, brand is who you are and what you're known for, and there's so many benefits of that. Having a brand, having a strong brand presence, whether you're Glossier or Warby Parker or Allbirds, like, it makes your acquisition easier because there's really no true cold audience. It means that you're doing something that you want people to talk about. I think it's what you're known for and what you're, who knows you. So a lot of, to me, brand is like something that you're proud of and willing to put out there and have people, again, know you for. And I think a lot of growth marketing is at odds with that, because a lot of growth marketing is a little bit shady, and it's I'll do anything to get the purchase, but it's not necessarily treating customers with respect. Where I feel like where we talk about retention and brand, it's all about positive affinity and associations with the company outside of products as well, which is super important. And I feel like a lot of times when we are trying to increase LTV and we're trying to do it with an amazing customer experience and, a lot of that soft, fluffy stuff with empathy that retention marketer is talking about, to me, that's very brand centric, versus when I think a lot of people are doing growth, it's trickery. It's how can I upsell this? How can I hack this? It's not necessarily like, how can I do it with is what is the best interest of the customer to give them a great experience. Does that make sense? I mean, do you agree with that?
I love it. I think I love the point you made. The word you use, hack. We'll get back to that in a minute. I think that's a very strong call out there. When I think about brand, I think about like, why does somebody choose the Away suitcase versus the 10 other ones that cost less and might be better quality? Why does somebody feel excited to purchase a pair of glasses from Warby Parker, whereas you can go anywhere else and buy glasses, right? It's the way you feel, it's the association you have, but it's also the way you're excited to share that with other people because you align with more than just the product. You align with their mission and their culture and their values. And I think that that's often fluffed up as like, oh, nobody cares about your values, or oh, nobody cares about the mission.
I hate when people say that no one cares about you as a company at all. I'm like, oh, like that's like the most direct response. Like getting the conversion is the only thing that matters at all, and it's so not true because people pay so much more. People care about Supreme. People care about Jordan. Like people do care about the brand.
And the funny part is, like, not to say that the only way you can make money is by having a great brand. Like, you can be Wish.com, right? Like, you can be AliExpress. Like, you can make money as a marketplace and as a brand by selling cheap shit or by selling great stuff that, doesn't have a brand. But the question becomes is like, how do you become a company that is known for more than just the product? How do you become a company that can create a legacy, that can be around for generations? Do you want to build something generational, or do you want to build a 12-figure brand, cash out, and live your life in the Bahamas? Now, there's no right way or wrong way. One of them is actually something that's for consumers they want to align themselves with. Like, there are very few brands that consumers are excited to wear on their chest, right? Like some of it is a status symbol. Some of it is like Patagonia. Like I love, you love the way they think about the world, or like some crazy like me that's like mad happy. I love the mission around mental health. Like you can have a zillion different brands, but it's aligning yourself with more than just the product. Like that's how I think about brand. And I think you and I talk about this very often behind closed doors now on a podcast to as many people as want to listen. But you and I talk about this a lot.
The 4 people that are listening to this probably.
Exactly. No, this is true. And we talk about this a lot of like the idea that thinking about every single touch point for a customer, every touch point of the experience, how does it make you feel? Bobby was talking about this yesterday. I did a little prezzo about CX in store, and Bobby was talking about this, like how to her it feels like it's the brand DNA. Like it's the insides of the brand. It's like the way a brand makes somebody feel. That's like the deepest part of a brand, and that's kind of fluffy, but it is like when you look at our surveys, like customers say like, this makes me feel a certain kind of way, but we're selling a product, right? So it's like, okay, you're selling a product, but we sell the feeling, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you think that humans don't buy on emotion, it's like you're completely crazy. And if you think people just like the problem and the product, and again, I think it depends what you're selling, right? If you're selling something that's I guess a huge commodity, or something like, I can't think of an example. I was gonna say water, but you could probably turn water into a brand, like Liquid Death did, right? That's actually maybe where brand is more important. But sometimes, yes, you can just sell something, and you're probably gonna be better off in a retail play, right? Where it's just like you want to be the cheapest or the most convenient. Like brand is not that important, But if you're trying to obviously sell for higher dollar amounts, you're trying to sell for direct to consumer, you really have to get people buying into your story and at least some emotions. That's not just the product that they're buying, because the good thing about e-commerce growing and Shopify being so easy and everything is there's so much more competition. So differentiation becomes so much more difficult and a unique selling proposition. And the reality is most people don't have very differentiated products. It's really hard, right? Otherwise it probably would have been done before. Like it's very hard unless you're an insane product person to come up with something that's completely different or solving a completely different need for somebody. So instead, what's a lot easier is probably solving a different emotional need, or solving that emotional need better, and doing that by brand instead of just trying to reinvent the wheel with the product.
Yeah, 100%. And then, and we can get to this in a little bit, but talking about like, what makes somebody refer a friend, right? It's like your $3 or your 10% off isn't alone the reason why somebody refers a friend. They have to be proud. Like if you're selling something that people generally keep secretive, like maybe your hymns and you're selling boner pills, like I think that's going to be a harder sell.
Have you bought any recently? How you told me actually behind closed doors you were using them. How they working for you?
I have a referral code for you. And I think I think it's
not the Lobby Live spot. I'm kidding.
No, I think a referral, when you think about things like that, is like how do they crack that? And I think Ritual is a great example of a brand that
I love Ritual.
Referrals like 10% of their business because they've cracked this code of the way it makes you feel, and it goes into your daily regimen, and it's the way it feels when you take the pill, the way it feels when you're making the right choice. Athletic Greens, another great example of something that they've cracked this code on.
Literally brands. My 2 favorite brands.
But they've cracked the code on brand where you feel proud and excited to share. And I think the other, and I think this is like also going to be a really fun thing to banter around, is like growth hacks. You know,
Big
like,
growth hack guy, yeah.
Yeah, a huge growth hack guy. I think the reason why I love talking about growth hacks is there's this concept like, if it works, then you should do it. And my thing is like, just because it works doesn't mean it's the right move, right? Like, I can think of a bunch. One of them is sharing email lists and doing like a giveaway. Like, if you sign up for this, you get added to 7 email lists, and you have the ability to win a collection of 17 brands giving a Mother's Day gift together. And now I'm on 17 email lists, but I only really give a shit about 1 or 2 of the brands. Like, what happens when I get email number 1 from the funky seltzer company and that I don't really care about?
Yeah, I think it depends. It's what are you optimizing for, and over what time frame are you optimizing for? And I think this is kind of what happens with incentives. It can happen pretty easily. If you're optimizing for lowest CAC, or you're optimizing for most number of leads, or growing your email list, there's a bunch of ways to do that aren't going to significantly lead to long-term brand growth and long-term profitability and growth of your brand. And I think, I think it's what Warren Buffett that said, like, show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. But like, I'm huge on that. I think that's something that can happen at companies, at brands, where everyone's got their own KPI, and that's something we've talked about a lot. And like, we don't really necessarily do KPIs at Jones Road, because like, we want, no one has an ego about it, and like, we want everything to play together nicely, and we're all trying to play the same game, which is like, CX and retention are trying to be on the same page as acquisition, and we're not pointing fingers and being like, oh, I'm getting the credit for this, like, I'm crushing it, you guys got to pick up your slack, which is, I think, what happens in a lot of brands. Like, oh, like Eli talked about, our ads are crushing it, we're getting the lowest CAC, but our retention's not good. And they think their retention is not good because they just have to set up more flows. But really, the reason their retention sucks is because they're acquiring the wrong type of customers. They're acquiring them on some growth hacks, like Eli would talk about. And like, yes, that's good for lowering CAC, that's good for lowering conversion rate, but at what cost? And everything has a cost. And what we talk about with this acquisition rooted in retention concept, if we're going to go there, which is, for us personally, we are trying to acquire customers. And when we're trying to acquire customers, we're trying to acquire repeat customers, people that are going to come back, trying to acquire ideal customers that are going to come back, they're going to continue to use our products, leave us good reviews, as well as tell their friends and all that kind of stuff. And there are, you can look at obviously your LTV cohort data, but not all customers are the same. And understanding the difference between those customers is something, Eli and I have talked a lot. I know the first time we talked, we were thinking about it. Like, I know you said, and I don't know how much you can share, but when you were at Olipop, like, you found some interesting stuff about how there were certain customers that you were acquiring that they had a cheaper CAC, but probably not the best customers, and vice versa. And I know we've talked about that too.
Yeah, no, I think it's spot on. And I think I had a conversation with somebody today or yesterday about, we were talking about retention in general. And he was like, what do you look for in a brand that you're working with or consulting with or taking a full-time job with, in terms of like, what do you need to see in order to know that you can crush retention? And I said 2 things. If you have unrealistic expectations, like a brand that's saying like, I think 100% of my customers should repeat, you're out of your fucking mind. Number 2, are you selling a product that's good? And I guess the third thing I should mention is, are you acquiring the right customers, right? Because, and the story with Olipop was, we were running an ad that was, just a gorgeous pour shot. It was pouring vintage cola over ice, and it, ASMR with the fizz and everything. And the CAC on that ad was awesome. We were paying customers at significantly less than we were paying on some of the other ads. And what we found out is over a period of a couple of weeks, we started seeing a lot more complaints saying like, I hate this. And I started digging like, where are these customers coming from? And we're using our data tool to figure out, based on UTM, where they came from. And they all came from Facebook, and most of them were coming from this ad. So when they purchased this product at, $35, $35.99 for a 12-pack, just seeing this gorgeous Porsche out there, like, this is 5 times the price of a Coke, it's probably 5 times as good. No knowledge around like what the product does for them, et cetera, versus like an us versus them ad, or a focus on the fiber, like the microbiome, or like a more, a little bit more friction in the funnel and giving them more of this customer journey. They buy it thinking like, oh, this is actually good for you. And the bonus is it tastes pretty good, right? Like it's not as good of maybe it's not better than a soda, but it's really delicious and it's great for you. And I think that's, what we continue talking about. Like that's a real life example, but we continue talking about like getting customers into your funnel or like getting them to purchase actually before they know what they're getting themselves into is a great recipe for potentially cheap CAC, but low LTV. And then the thing which is like silly, but often missed out on is the flows, the campaigns, the spam. That's not going to help you because they never were a good fit for your product in the first place.
Yeah, those tactics can't make up for a bad offer, a bad product, but as well as not, what you would call nurturing those customers beforehand, giving them a really good experience. I think, again, as marketers, we think so much, we lose touch with the reality that our customers are experiencing, that people don't care about their emails. They're probably not even going to read a lot of them, right? It's all about the experience that they have with the product, and are they liking the product, and how have they been pre-framed. And if they're not having a good experience with the product, no amount of A/B testing our flows and are we sending our post-purchase after 4 days or 5 days is really going to make any difference. You know what I mean?
We're getting spicy, Cody.
I think it's pretty mild. I think it's kind of mild. I think we're holding back.
Okay.
So what? I think some other ways to think about it, right? Like if we go into this a little bit, like some ways that we've kind of found or have thought about kind of like the right customers versus the wrong customers, just to keep it kind of a little bit more tactical and specific. Like one thing is product. One thing we talk a lot about, I know, Eli's talked about it, especially subscription companies, is are you looking at your LTV by product and understanding which products have the best LTV, but also the best balance, right? You may have a product, and we do, that has the lowest CAC, maybe the highest volume, but the LTV is lower for whatever reason. It's going to be harder. It could be harder to go and try to increase the LTV on that for whatever reason. It might not be their favorite. It might take them longer to go through. And you also might have products that people love once they try it. They just do over and over and over again, but it's really hard for them to start on that. It's just not something that people come to you for, Is that something kind of you've seen in your career at all?
Yes. I am curious if you'd be willing to divulge a little bit more and share an example of products that can potentially be low CAC, but also low LTV based on usage.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll start not Jones Road, and then I can share a little bit of Jones Road. A few things I found and I've heard that's kind of universal with like beverage brands, right? Food and bev. I guess not just food and bev, I guess, right? Supplements even. If you can do a variety pack, usually that leads to a higher LTV than others. So if you're Hydrant and you're selling stuff like that, if you're Olipop, if you're Magic Spoon, if you can do a variety pack and get people doing a sampler pack, that usually leads to a higher LTV because you're just exposing them to more things. We have a kit. So what I found is on our kits, we have multiple kits that we rotate in and out in sets, but kind of, bundles. Those can be great acquisition offers for a few reasons. But if I buy one product, if I buy our best selling product is Miracle Balm, and I buy that one product, I have a 1-in-1 shot of liking it. It's a little bit more difficult. If I buy the startup kit or the 101 set, we have 4 products. Maybe I don't love the Miracle Balm, but maybe I love the mascara or something like that. So that's totally something that we found. For us specifically, Miracle Balm was our best-selling product. So now, might be number 2 after What the Foundation. And it's polarizing. People love it or they don't love it. It also it's really big. It takes them a while to go through. So we found it's really unique. Essentially, I believe that for an acquisition product, you want to be very unique. It's really hard to stand out. There's 2 types of offers, right? If we're going to talk about acquisition really quick, you have a new opportunity and you have an improvement. An improvement offer is something that you have better. So our mascara is an improvement offer. I don't wear mascara if you can't tell, but it's supposed to be a really, really good mascara. However, there's not a ton that we can say that's uniquely differentiated versus other mascaras. We can say it's the blackest. We can say it stays on better. We can say it doesn't flake. But that is all stuff that is subjective and anyone else can say. However, so that's an improvement offer, which is really difficult to run ads for. Our CAC is a lot higher on that, so we don't really run ads for mascara. Miracle Balm is what would be called more of a new opportunity. It's a category creator. It's a hybrid. There's really not anything like it on the market. So we can say things that are unique to us, and that allows us to stand out and have our messaging heard and not get lost. Same thing with our new foundation, with the foundation. Like that's a hybrid. So that is the best thing to bring people in on. But we find, for whatever reason, either they're polarizing products because they're different, or people don't know how to use them. I'll let Eli talk about the education because that's his big focus. Or it takes longer to go through. We have to get really creative, and either we have to think about, all right, you're starting on this product, it's the best for acquisition. What do we need you to get you hooked on the second product to know that you're going to keep coming back? How do we educate you, or how do we merchandise our products? Do we create a kit that you're coming for the Miracle Balm, but we're also selling you the face pencil and mascara with it together? Anything you want to add to that, or you want to talk about like the education as from your end, kind of from the, now that I talked about acquisition, like how do you think about that from the retention end?
No, it's spot on. And I think so kind of recapping what you said, right? There's the fact that this is differentiated, so it makes it easy to get customers on, right? It's a great acquisition offer. But then the flip side of that is like, you use this over a longer period of time. There's risk if you don't like it. Different customers should use it differently. And I'll hop into education in a second. So thinking about, this core product as our acquisition product. And then, on the retention side, it's super important to think, okay, a customer comes into this. Mission number one, make sure they have success with this product. What does that entail? Great call bringing up Miracle Balm, because that's a great example of a product that needs education. A, because nothing like that exists. B, because in every single video, Bobby's using it. Bobby has oily skin. Bobby has dry skin. So with Bobby having dry skin, she uses it very differently than somebody that has oily skin would use it. So being very clear, as and we use Octane to get all the zero-party data, knowing if they have dry skin or oily skin. So setting them up for success right after they purchase the product, making sure they have the ability to understand how to properly use it. That's of a ton of importance.
But sometimes it's best even before. I mean, definitely before they use the product. But even I'll see a lot of I guess this is too late, but on TikTok, months after it, we'll do a video on Miracle Balm for oily skin, right? To try to address some of those. And some people would be like, oh, I wish I knew this when I got it. I didn't love it at first. Let me try it again. But it's so much harder to backtrack. So
yeah. And then the other thing is you're saying it's a very large product, but it also isn't necessarily the product that you use on a day-to-day basis. But if we know that mascara is a product you use on a day-to-day basis, the question we talk about often is how many products do you have to love for you to be obsessed with brand? And I think it's a difficult question to ask. Generally, broadly, I think it takes at least 2 to 3 products for you to be like, okay, I don't love the product, I love the brand. Unless, obviously, caveat, if you love Patagonia because you love their mission, you might love the product, you might love the brand before the product. And that's a question can you love the brand before the product? Which comes first, which comes second, which is not a fight I care to fight. But the important thing is let's say we think about, the ideal repurchase product is mascara because we know it's 1,000 times better than anything else. It costs way too much money to bring in customers with. We know they'll love it. That's where I love the idea of cross-selling, because it's not, hey, your wallet's open, let me have all your money. It's, hey, you like this product, it's doing well for you. Here's another product from the same brand that you'd use on a daily basis and you'd love, and it's great for you, great for us. That's the and it could be linear, right? It's you bought this product, let's think about the journey. You get this product, you're set for success on this product. We check in with you to make sure it's great. We look at your review, we pull that information saying if this customer rated this 5 stars, pull that into Klaviyo as a segment saying you rated Miracle Balm 5 stars, you have oily skin, we're going to recommend you this. So these recommendations get so much more direct, and it's not just we're just telling everyone, hey, you purchased this, buy this, or hey, your wallet's open, give us more. It actually makes sense. And yeah, education, right? We touched on that.
That's very big though, important. Talking about essentially, and you're talking about being very specific. Obviously, we use a lot of first and zero-party data, but I think that's one big kind of component of I call it brand first performance marketing, but I mean, you could call that brand first retention marketing. Is we're not upselling for the sake of upselling. We're not upselling the same thing to everybody. We first want to educate, right? We want to, obviously in post-purchase stuff, we want to build relationships, tell stories, do as much of that kind of brand building so they know our mission and our story as much as possible. And then we want to educate use our post-purchase communications, unboxing if we can, about how to use the products to make sure they actually have a good experience, right? I feel like those are the two first things. And then we will make upsells. And I feel like, and do you feel like other people are kind of switching that up, probably not doing a ton of education and using that post-purchase communication more for like upselling first?
Every single day. I mean, I see this shit as a consumer and I'm like, there's no way that these people went through this journey as a consumer and thought it made sense. I mean, we see this every single day where you'll purchase a D2C brand product. The few things I see that are big mistakes, they'll ask you for a review before you get your product. Have that every day.
Don't do that.
Yeah, they will upsell you before you even properly use the product.
Shout out to Wonderment. You got to make sure that somebody has actually gotten the product, so you can use Wonderment, which is what we use. I know they're your Newsy sponsor, but yeah, just to give people some tactical things, right? So Wonderment hooks up with Klaviyo. You can set like an event, and you can kind of suppress something until it's gotten there. It's to make sure you're not sending a review request or sending any kind of post-purchase thing that you would want to get after the product gets there, because we've probably all had that happen from a DTC brand. Like that's a pretty shitty experience.
Yeah, and I think the if I had to bring one point forward here, it's that living through your experience that you're creating for consumers as a consumer yourself. Bobby did this week. She came in, she had a box from Jones Road. She's like, I ordered a spatula. I wanted to see how it's sent if I ordered just a spatula. And I think that's like every single brand owner should be doing that, should be purchasing their own stuff, go through it with a clean head as a consumer and be like, does this make sense? Like I'm getting an email now saying like, hey, you love this, you should buy this. A, how do you know the person loved it if you're not pulling data? B, do you think it's too quick? Like if somebody purchased your product yesterday, why are you selling? Like their wallet's open. Does that mean that you should grab more money, or are you thinking LTV? And I think brands that think LTV want to first ensure that the customer had a great experience. And then they want to think, how can I make this experience better for not just them? Obviously, you want to make the experience better for yourself by getting more money, but you don't want to think about it as like win once, win twice, and it's over. You want to think like, how can we create a customer that is a brand evangelist and will eventually tell other people about it? So don't just grab the money and run. Think more tactically about how you can play the long-term game, which is making sure they have success with the product before you continue pushing them. The other mistake we see very often is brands saying like, hey, can you refer a friend? The moment after you placed your order, it's like, submit order, hey, refer a friend. You're like, I'm a first-time customer. I don't even know how this tastes. Why would I do that?
I go back and forth on that because like there is some, I guess, data to show that like people are most excited. And when I ran a service-based business too as well, it's like people are going to be most excited. They're going to have the most amount of dopamine when they purchase. Obviously, they might have some uncertainty about the product, so some people are not going to, but some people are actually going to be most likely to refer a friend right then and there.
But question, Cody, if somebody's most likely to refer a friend right after that purchase, does that mean that they like? Do you think it would be just as organic of a referral? Meaning, aside from like copy and paste the link, but if you were expecting like a brand evangelist where it's not just copy and paste the link, but it's like, hey, I bought this and I loved it. Something that feels more solid. Like, do you think there's a reason to potentially wait until they actually have tried your product?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, and I think that's the hard part with a lot of this stuff is like,
it works.
You exactly it works, but at what, right? At what expense? Like, you can upsell in the first 7 days and get some really good revenue
100%.
On a flow. You could probably do a referral thing, and it works. But I guess it's just, what is your goal? What is your time period? Because I'm thinking about it, and like, I'll be very vocal because, again, I know how hard building a brand is. So I'll be, if I love a brand or I love a product, I'll be very vocal about it. I'm a huge Athletic Greens guy. I've referred a ton of people to Cuts, right? I got these Adams shoes that are like awesome. Like I'll speak about them. I'll tweet about it because I love just sharing what I think is working. And you're right. The first time trying something, I would, right after purchasing it, I wouldn't recommend it. I have no idea. I have to at least try it once. And it depends. If it's like a food, right? I just got like some, like, what are they, Muddy Bites in the mail? Like, I can have one bite of those and be like, these are dope, you know? If it's a ritual supplement, they really are. If it's like a ritual supplement and it's a probiotic, and again, this is one of those, it depends on what your product is. I'm not going to feel a probiotic right away. Like, I need 30 days to let that kick in and see if I'm making any difference.
unless you're super, super in touch with your body, and right after I drink AG1, I feel it.
Yeah.
I'm just trolling.
Yeah.
I do want to kind of talk about, there's a few other topics I have in mind. I want to talk about, FYI, I didn't prep Cody before, so we're catching him off guard on this one. But I want to talk about your recruiting strategy, like how you build. But before we do that, like I want to talk about.
all right, fine. I got one more thing I want to say about like retention though.
Okay, go for it.
Kind of. So I think the other thing, and I know we touched on it briefly, but I think this is really important. Like, is not only the timeliness of making sure people and using the data that you have, right? Of making sure that people are getting the message at the right time after they've loved your product, but also the segmentation of it. And Eli and I are very, very pro segmentation. So making sure that you're giving the right message to the right person and using all that data. And if there's, a good, and I come again, because I had my own local business and come from a sales background as well. It's like, you learn that like people don't like salespeople, but they, there's a quote. It's like people hate being sold to, but people love to buy. So you don't want to feel salesy, but people do obviously want to buy stuff. So you have to do it in a way. And one anecdotal thing that I've noticed is talking to salespeople, especially when I started getting into sales, I would go and just see, like Eli talked about, like go through your marketing flows. Same thing. If you want to get better at sales, like talk to salespeople, see how you're sold to, see what works on you. Same thing for marketing. So I would go into car dealerships and stuff like that, like a weirdo. And what always drove me crazy was when people would start selling to you without asking you any questions. You want to prescribe, right? When you're doing, B2C sales on the phone, person to person, you want to prescribe. You're trying to fix problems because that's why people are buying things. And if you don't ask people questions and go down a line of questioning, it's going to feel really salesy because it's like, how does this guy even know what I care about?
What I want, right.
This guy just has an agenda. There's no trust being built, People love, again, like how to win friends and influence people kind of type logic.
Yep.
People love talking about themselves. People love when people feel like they're interested in themselves. So you don't have to personalize it, but it should feel personalized. And again, I think you should personalize it, but that's why quizzes work so well. Because they are personalized, but even if they're not, they feel personalized. So we use all of that data, first party data, zero party data, so that if we are recommending something, we're doing our best to recommend it based on what they already got. So Eli, what are some ways we do that? I mean, is that quiz data? Is that reviews? Is that what they bought? How do you think about that?
I mean, yeah, you're spot on with right message, right person, right time. It's what we talk about all the time. I think spot on with the dealership thing. Like when I break out in hives if I'm feeling like I'm being sold to, but if I feel like somebody has my best interest in mind, I'm totally A-okay. The other thing, I'd love to have Joanne, who runs all things email and SMS, on this podcast at some point in time to talk about some of the things that she's learned. But I think if you're, my current thesis is if you're collecting data and you have no way to use it at any point, if you're pulling data into Klaviyo and you're not using it, you're doing something wrong. So what that means is, yes, we're using Junip for reviews. We're pulling that data and we're saying if you recommend,
you don't like Yapo? You're not a Yapo guy?
I'm a huge Yapo guy, but if I'm not using Yapo and I'm a big Junip guy, I would think that if somebody rated your product 0 stars, you shouldn't keep selling it to them, right? So pulling that information and pulling in, are they dry skin? Are they oily skin? Another great way to segment.
That's such a small tactical one, the reviews one. I don't think I ever have done that or thought about, but that was such Joanne. An easy tactical one. It makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's genius because you're like, I know if somebody loves, and the flip side as well, right? If somebody gave a product 5 stars, we know based on data that if somebody purchased What the Foundation, they're very likely to purchase a face pencil. We know even with stronger almost certainty that if they gave 5 stars on WTF and they haven't bought face pencil, that it's a very solid push, and it doesn't feel as much of an upsell because we feel like we have stronger reason to believe that they would buy that.
And then you can also make that education. Again, I don't like saying because you bought this, like I don't like saying that, but you can definitely make the case. And educate. When you upsell, you can educate instead of just sell, and then it's a little bit more of a prescription, right? Because when you go to the doctor, if the doctor's telling you to get a supplement or a prescription, like, you'll take it because they actually are making the case why it's best for you, versus if you're just giving the same generic thing. So you want to prescribe as much as possible based on the problem that somebody told you that they have. So if you have quiz data that says they have dry skin and they're concerned about blemishes, then you can obviously tailor your upsell to that versus just spraying and praying to everybody.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Prescribe, don't
sell.
Put that on a t-shirt.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. Are we all done on retention? Can we hop?
Let's do it. I think we beat the nail on that one. All right, so what do you want to talk about? Recruitment?
Well, first things first, I want to take a quick tiny break and talk about our sponsor. Down to Chat is brought to you by swag.com. We are going to be talking more about employee retention in this podcast, and I think one of the super important parts of keeping employees is making them feel valued. It's core to company culture. It's core to making people feel welcome. And so many brands pull out this janky old swag that people don't want to keep. Swag.com is exciting because they carry thousands of incredible products, from custom tech to apparel like North Face and Yeti and Nike and so much more. Swag.com works with 5,000 companies like Amazon, Netflix, Spotify, TikTok, Google, Apple, and a whole bunch of small startups. The most exciting thing for me on swag.com is that you can create these custom gift templates where when somebody joins your company, they fill out a form. They go onto this landing page. I know Cody's a big landing page guy. Hop on a landing page and you can actually, brand this landing page, and it feels like your company's swag selection page, which is absolutely awesome. And you can ship 50 different swag boxes to 50 different addresses all on their site. So excited for that. If you use promo code D2C10 at checkout, you get 10% off your first order. Check it out, swag.com. I'm a professional podcaster. I just realized.
Big podcast energy.
Big podcast guy. And then, I want to talk about something that I think about very often, and I know this question comes up a lot. I've seen people talk about it on Twitter all the time. It's like, if you are a tiny brand, you're just starting, you have you have this desire to bring in great people on your team. You have no idea where to start. Like, you have been pretty solid at recruiting. I'm not gonna say, well, congratulations, you scored me. But congratulations. No jokes. No, I think it's something that people think about, especially in this economy, in this environment where it's like hard to kind of pull people. It's hard to kind of poach. You've poached. You've hired from the ground. I think you've done like a little article about poaching people from Twitter. But I think just two things I want to talk about. We can start with either one. Is like, how do you view building company culture? And how do you view recruiting into a brand that's moving the speed that we're moving, where we're hiring? We have 5-10 open roles, and we're just kind of going crazy on what are you looking for? How do you make the moves? How do you sell that? How do you sell the brand to work? And I can say how you sold it to me, but I think it's also awesome to talk about how you think about that. Like, how do you think about pulling somebody from a great brand that's doing well?
Yeah, good question. So I think what you want me to say is, Eli, you are the best. I am so lucky to have you.
We're done here.
I would be nothing without you. Is that the answer that you're looking for?
You can stop recording.
Yeah. All right. I mean, obviously, I don't have all the answers by any means, and nobody is going to be completely successful with hires. I mean, again, fortunately, what I consider my business school was owning my own business, and I owned a local service business with my wife for a bunch of years, and that was not necessarily the easiest way to attract people, right? We were not. It was a bootstrap company, very bootstrapped. So we're not able to pay people a ton, not great benefits. So it's like, when you don't have that, you have to recruit them by other means. You know what I mean? And everything is marketing and selling, and so that was a huge focus of us as we began to grow. It's people are the most important thing. As you scale and your business grows, you run out of time. You obviously have to to get people, and hopefully you want to have as many A players as you can. I do think it's a little bit, I think of it like basketball. Like, you don't actually want all A players on your team. It's like a basketball team, right? You don't want to have LeBron and, I'm going to totally like date myself. I was about to say like some old ass players, but right, like you don't want to have like LeBron, and I know that they have Westbrook when it's good. You don't want to have James Harden and Kyrie on the same team, like, and KD. Like, that would be a total nightmare, right? So you definitely do need a blend of very strong personalities, A players who are probably going to be A personalities, as well as some people who are a little bit more passive and a little bit more of like a role player type role, right? So I think that's super important, and knowing who's going to work well together and respect each other. I think that's culture. I think you're a much bigger culture guy than I am, but I think obviously that's one component of it. And I think just understanding like what you want to be known for. Like, I want to have the best product, and obviously I'm not involved in product at all, but I want to have a great product. I want to have a great brand. I want to have amazing CX and retention. I don't necessarily want the best Facebook ads in the world. I've tweeted about that. I've thought about it. So like, when I'm thinking about who we need, who we want, again, I'm thinking about, what are our specific needs? What do we want to be known for rather than that? And let's say we have, right, like 5 directors. Let's say we have like brand, performance, CX, product, operations. Like, we don't necessarily need A players, amazing people, across all of it. And again, not to blow smoke up your ass, but obviously I think you're an A player. You're an okay guy, I guess, if I have to say it. And I knew that, again, like, Facebook ads, costs going up, all that kind of stuff, like super competitive. Like, again, I truly think that a unique proposition. It's actually really unfortunate, but I really do think that having a great customer experience and having great retention is something that is a unique value proposition, which is crazy that, like, to treat your customers right, you can be known for that, as Zappos was known for that. But so I think that was one. And I think if I'm going to talk about my perspective from getting you here, it's understanding what people value, right? Especially kind of A players. And obviously you have to have a strong salary, right? A lot of people are going to want, again, all these fluffy benefits, like, well, just get out of the way. Obviously strong salary. A lot of people are going to want equity, 401k matches, health insurance, all that kind of stuff. Understanding people want remote versus not remote, all of that kind of stuff is important. But I think the A players want something that's not a job. I mean, obviously, especially because I know that you're on Twitter and you're doing podcasts, right? Like, it's more than just a job for you, right? It's something that you're super passionate about, and you want to feel like you're making a difference, is what I'm assuming, and most people do. And a lot of that is the team. And I know that we've had a lot of people that now, as we're building the team, right? As we got LeBron and Westbrook here, a lot of other people are going to want to go and say, hey, you're building something special. Like, I want to go be a part of that because I want to learn from you guys. I want to be around that environment, but also selling the vision, selling the mission. If I was just to tell you, like, Eli, we need CX, man. Our CX is broken. We need you here. I don't think that would have worked. I had to sell the vision and be like, hey, like, this is super important. Values align, I think. And I know this is a very long-winded answer, so I'll wrap it up. But values align, and then building the mission. Here's what we're building. Selling the vision, right? Selling that future pacing, and then hopefully having that be something that you want to be a part of and feel inspired by.
I mean, completely spot on. I vibe with everything. I think the thing, and I can talk about culture briefly, but I think the thing that you, and not to sound like a crazy, but I've had quite a few offers over the last year and a half that I didn't entertain at all. The thing that was exciting talking to you was your respect for my values, you, like you're saying, trying to understand like what's important to you, right? And every other recruiter / director / CEO that slides in the DMs is like, I'm gonna pay you whatever you want. And it's like, money alone is not gonna sell me. I can just quit it all, go on my own and do my own thing. That, like, I'm not in this for the money. It's everything, right? It's your point. It's competitive, it's competitive salary, competitive whatever, having all those like perks and benefits, but that perks and benefits don't get you up in the morning. Having, a shitty salary, not getting paid enough, like all that stuff can make you, really frustrated and want to go. But that alone, your point, 100%, that alone is not going to get you. It's the understanding what excites the other person. Like, you're spot on. Like, my vision for CX is like, I have this 30-year plan where I want to like build and operate businesses that put the customer first and show that that's a proposition that makes money. And that, working with A players is super exciting. Like the way you viewed growth is something that I haven't seen with most growth marketers. That was exciting for me. The way Bobby has built brand is exciting for me. The way Joanne thinks about email and SMS, exciting for me. Putting together that team, like to me, team is super, super exciting. Like I love working with great people. Again, to your point, doesn't have to all be A players, but it has to be people that love doing what they're doing. That is fucking, electrifying. Like that makes me excited because you come in here, everyone's excited to be doing what they're doing. They're thrilled to be here. It can be makeup, it can be luggage, it can be soda, it can be chicken nuggets. Like, I don't care. I want people to be excited doing what they're doing. And then having this, like, for me, having this ability to, Eli, do your thing. Like, go build this thing. Tell us what you need. Make this magical. Like, that is so much more exciting than, okay, here are your KPIs. We'll check in a week. Make sure you get your stuff done. Like, I'd rather fuck myself. You know what I mean? And I think that was the most exciting for me is like, you have this, like you have all the tools to build the coolest shit in the world. Go do it. And, this is a team. We're working on this together. This huge vision. Like, that to me, as far as like recruiting is like sell this massive vision, but also be down to earth on like, it's a great place to work. People are really nice. You can stay at the George if you're really well behaved.
There's a candy closet. I think also probably like I knew this because I wanted to be friends with you and have it work out no matter what. But like I think being transparent about the process is important. It's in sales. It's called oh my god, my brain is totally fried. I've been out of sales so long. Essentially downselling, right? You're essentially downselling. And you're essentially, people call it a damaging admission, or like Chris Voss, who's like the FBI negotiator,
or
he'll call it like
negging.
an accusations audit. Yeah, or negging, right? Different ways. I think downside. Takeaway selling is what it's called. That's what I'm looking for, right? But don't just sell and hype everything, and especially when you know that people are skeptical and they have a high bullshit radar, a good bullshit detector, which I could tell you did. Understanding all of the transparencies, and hey, this is also something to look out for, and that builds trust, and that's part of what
100%.
you're trying to do when you're selling. And again, I believe recruitment and marketing is selling. Is hey, also like I just want you to know this going into it, and I can't say on air what it was, but there's some people in some people in leadership and whatnot. I was like, hey, just want you to know this. Like, I just want to be totally honest about it, transparent. Whatever happens, I value our friendship, and I want to do that, and like. That then it's like, okay, now it's my decision. This guy's not pushing it, and he's not pushing me forward. It's like, all right, he's actually made it easier for me to make a decision because I think that's part of it, like removing any potential objections, because it's like
I love it.
If it's hard to make a decision, people are going to make no decision, or they'll make the comfortable decision.
But you are 100% right on the, like, being straightforward about, like, these are the difficulties about working at Jones, or, like, this is what we're going through right now is so spot on, because it feels like you're being transparent. You're sharing the full story and not just saying, like, this is the best thing in the world. And we see this very often with founders where they're like, we are going to be the next $1 zillion brand, and if you're not part of this, you're crazy. And at a certain point, like, if you've been in the industry for, like, 5-6 years, you spot that from a mile away. And you're like, yeah, cool. Nice.
We're going to be one of the top 5 biggest companies in the world.
Nice. Yeah, you're like, okay, we're elevating the world's consciousness. Like, okay, cool. Yeah. You do exactly.
That. Yeah, and again, this is it, and this is what I learned from, so essentially my first business was a physical therapy business and a gym business, and we sold like high tickets, like cash-based physical therapy, right? And we used to sell it super hard, try to get them in for one session. This is where I learned all of this stuff, by the way. We would sell them in for one session and just try to go and be like, oh, you'd be fixed and stuff like that. And like people would do 1 or 2 sessions and they wouldn't stick. And that's not what we wanted. We wanted people that were doing like 30 session plans of care to get like a really high LTV. And eventually we got that. And we would do as much takeaway selling, as much down selling, be as transparent as possible, because we don't want as many customers as possible. We wanted to make sure the customers we did get stuck for life. And we have to disclose all of our garbage and all of our baggage before that, and to make sure people stick. Otherwise, you sell everything, and then as soon as things start going rocky, now they start to question everything, and that's where you get people to drop off. And I think recruitment's the same, right? If I was telling you everything is great and stuff like that, as soon as you started seeing stuff, like it would be a red flag, like there wouldn't be trust, and you know what I mean? Versus I think if you were a little bit aware of stuff going in and be like, hey, like I just want to, this is how it is here, like we're gonna fix this together. It's not perfect, but like we're gonna do this together. It just builds more trust, and you're setting up it's the same. It's just all relationships.
It's his brand, right? But it's kind of like
yeah.
this. When you're saying this, it's resonating with me, and it's like there's so many similarities between like recruiting, company culture, brand. Like it's the way you feel, it's the values, it's the respect, it's the it's like coming to work feeling like this is a company that respects you as a person and isn't just and people will argue back and forth if like capitalism is just the exchange of dollars for work, and maybe, but I would love to think that there's more than just like you're valued for more than just the work. You're valued for you as a person, and you're appreciated, and we see all the sides of you. And I think me as a leader on my team, it's like I don't want people to just come in, clock their hours, and leave. Like even if they want, like I want to deeply understand them as much as they're open to share. I want them to feel like they're supported for more than just the tickets they clock in. But, and that's the flip of that is like, that is also employee retention, right? We talk about this very often, that you can't say you care about customer retention, not employee retention. You can't say you care about employee retention, not customer retention. They're all deeply giving a shit about humans, understanding what made them come here, what would make them leave, and kind of foreseeing that arc, right? Like people come to a business the same as customers. They come in like super hyped, we're going to change the world. They get to that arc where they're like, I don't know about this, right? And it's like, how do you continue selling them? Like how do you make a business a great place to be? Like what perks and benefits do you want to give them? How do you want to show them you value your time? Like Bobby, everyone from Bobby to you to like every leader in this business, one thing they're really good at is like telling people that they value them, right? Like, you do great work. You're amazing. We love you here, right? I think it's like that.
I could be better about that. I could be better about that.
We all have things we can be better at. I think the important thing is kind of viewing a customer journey, employee journey. Like there's so many similarities. I also don't believe that employees have to be at a company for a decade. I think that depends where the business is in their journey, depends where the company is. But I think viewing people as more holistic than just the dollars they give you, the time they give you, the customer and employee thing, I think there's a lot of similarities. There's also a lot of similarities in brand and culture, I think.
No, I think you're right. Like I think one thing you do really well on the CX side is like understanding that if somebody doesn't love your products, they still can be an advocate, for your brand and refer other people. And it's kind of the same thing that, you kind of do on employees as well. And I've been a part of companies previously where it's like, once you leave, it's like, you're kind of dead to me and you're our rival now. And I know how that makes me feel. So I know one thing that you're big about is like, if people are going to leave, you're very transparent about it. They're not going to be there forever, and like you'll actually help them get a position if it doesn't work out there. And again, I think it's just playing the long-term game. It might be just an abundance mindset instead of a scarcity mindset, but I think that's
it's also brand. It's the way people think about me.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Right?
There's a huge parallel. I agree.
Yeah.
All I'm saying, there's a huge parallel between your personal brand as a hiring manager and a leader, Jones Road brand, as well as the same principle of how we should be treating customers.
I think what's resonating with me is like this more holistic view of everything, right? It's like, I don't know why people got so ticked off at me about saying that like one of the, like a hack to career growth is being likable. Like, I don't know why that triggered people.
Wait, seriously? What did people say to it?
People got, I know, like somebody's like got triggered, like being likable is the worst idea. It'll drain you. And I'm like, I didn't say everyone has to like you. I said, don't be a douchebag. Like I said, like being likable doesn't mean that you should pander.
How many followers did the person who said it's a bad idea have? Probably 12. I bet no more
probably
than 12.
Like, I think like 7.
Did they have their picture? Did they have their picture, or was it anonymous?
I don't even want to talk about it because I was like,
how can that even be polarizing? Like,
I'm just like,
being a good person is probably a good thing to do.
Like being likable does, and I do want to reiterate what being likable means. Like being likable doesn't mean everyone has to like you. Being likable means that you're a kind person. Like the way I view it is like you said, the reason why I tell people if you work for me, I will help you get a job elsewhere if you're a great employee is because I care about my brand. Like it's not like, yeah, maybe I'm a great guy, but that has nothing to do with this. Like me, I want to, yeah, kind of, not really, but like me wanting to help other people is like you're saying, like working, like I think this is going to continue to be more and more valuable where you work, like you take a job at a brand, but you also take a job with a hiring manager, and people end up learning this later on in their careers. Like you can go to the company with the greatest culture. If you have a shit manager, you're screwed. vice versa. You can go to a company that has kind of a crappy culture. If you have a great manager, you'll have a great experience. And my goal is like, I want to be known as I want to be known as a hiring manager where I deeply give a shit about you as a person. And whether or not you absolutely hate CX or hate makeup or whatever it is, and 6 months later you're like, I'm done, like I will gladly be, your raving fan to help you. And I think it's your point about CX, right? It's like I saw that the reason why I got excited about this at Olipop is because I saw myself as a customer. Like when I was in that, better for you food space, I eat Sour Patch Kids and Mike and Ike's. Like I was getting sent all this healthy snacks, and there were so many things that I tasted that I said, like, I absolutely hate this. Like, it tastes like vomit to me, but if you're a keto guy or gal, this is something you'd love. And that's kind of when it clicked for me, is like, if I don't think X, Y, and Z taste good, I know it's because I have a very sweet tooth, but it can still be a great product, plus great experience, plus the way I felt on their site, the way I felt with them as a brand. And I think if we think about that across CX, across, hiring, across everything, just like more holistically than just black and white, I think if that's one takeaway from this conversation, I'd be happy. But
no, that's important. That's important. All right, let's go kind of like some rapid fire. What do we want to finish it up with? Any ideas?
The important one, pumpkin spice latte, yay or nay?
I don't know if I've had one. I used to get, especially when I lived in like Central Jersey, there were a bunch of Wawas there. I would get the Wawa pumpkin coffee, which was pretty
big
phenomenal.
Wawa guy, huh?
Yeah, I mean, there's not many around here, but yeah.
I know, it's funny because like only people in like New Jersey, PA, Florida will even know what. I mean, like I guess the Wawa energy because people are very, very like. There's a lot of Wawa stands, but the next really, I guess I should answer for myself. Very much.
Yeah, what are you?
I'm a basic bitch. Yay.
Yeah, I can see. All right, I'll go next. We'll just keep going back.
Tendies. Wait, tendies.
All right, tendies. Well, can you explain? I heard you explain to Bobby the other day what tendies are. Can you just explain for people out there what tendies are?
My favorite part of working at Jones Road is getting Bobby caught up on the culture. My favorite, hands down. She's like, tendies? Are you okay? And I was like, so newsletters and newsy, chicken tenders or tendies? It's pretty straightforward.
Have you ever seen the Aziz Ansari skit where he's talking about all the different slang and what they are?
I have not, but I should.
Oh, I gotta find it for you. He's talking about like nudes and dumps. No, I think it's from Parks and Rec. I'll find it for you.
It feels vaguely familiar.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you first started talking about tendies in Miami, I thought it was a D's nuts joke. I was laughing so hard because I thought you were lining it up for a tendies nuts joke. All right. Big tendies guy. I am mostly gluten free, so I try to stick to gluten free ones. But I got some bomb ones the other day. Yeah. All right.
It makes me feel something.
What are your thoughts on as a big retention guy? Post purchase upsells, right? Ooh. Is that something that you think can be done in an on brand way? Meaning again, acquisition rooted in a retention long term game, or do you feel like that's something that is inherently kind of not scammy is the right word, but something like that, and you would not advocate for it?
Are we going like an overrated, underrated version, or is it just like yay or nay?
Yay or nay, and give some context.
Context. It depends. I mean, I think that if the most important thing for me is this a win for the customer or just for the brand? So a great example of like a post-purchase upsell that we did at Olipop that customers loved was we had a limited edition SKU that we had like a couple hundred cases left over and we wanted to get rid of it. And we did like post-purchase, we used like Cart Hook for 15 minutes, you have 20% off. And it gave customers the ability to try this product that was on the way out. It was like a last chance kind of offer. And it went well. Customers ended up loving it. It was good for us because we got rid of the inventory. It was great for them because they got to try this product and that felt good. Now, it doesn't always have to be discounts. I think if it goes very well with the product and you know that customers might love it, I have no problem with it. Again, caveat is like it shouldn't feel scammy. It shouldn't feel spammy. It should feel on brand. It shouldn't feel like I absolutely hate when things are just a money play.
I hate fake urgency and scarcity. It's my least favorite. We saved your cart for 10 minutes. Like I hate
Next 10 minutes. Next 10 minutes, you can add this to your cart.
And then your computer just blows up after it is what happens.
If you don't forward this chain to 10 people, a turtle dies.
Yeah, like I go back and forth with that with the post purchase. Like I don't really know. I don't think I love it. I'm curious, and I haven't really seen it too much. I mean, again, like I'm totally fine with. It seems like every e-commerce site has like in-cart upsells. I don't really like the pop-up upsells that happen after you add something to cart. But again, in-cart upsells are fine. I guess I'm even okay with like in-checkout upsells, which are becoming more common. I don't think post-purchase upsells are super common. I don't.
That reminds me of
Yeah.
walking in TJ Maxx or in like any other of those like department stores.
Yeah.
In the checkout lane, all those grab that, all that stuff. Like it doesn't.
Well, that's
bother
what I
you.
think about it. That's what I think about it. That doesn't bother you. If anything, it's helpful. But if I just checked out and then they were like, "Actually, do you want this?" I'm like,
Let me give you.
I guess that's how it's done. Hold on. I guess it's how it's done. Because if the cashier was like if
screaming at you.
Exactly. Hey, you have 10 more minutes to get this. But if like, oh, you know what? I just forgot. Like, this would also go really well. You just got the foundation. Like, a lot of people love the spatula. Like, I guess it's not the worst.
So that's the thing. Like, that's the way I think about it in retail. It's like, if it's there quietly and you have the ability to make that decision yourself, great. When it's being, exploding on the screen and there's things spinning and it's chaotic and it's for the next 25 seconds only, that fake urgency drives me crazy. And again,
so if we were to do it, we would do cohorts. We'd test AOV and conversion rates on it, but then we could also do an NPS and see if they have a
100%.
different NPS, right? All right.
Yeah, I mean there are ways to test it. I 100%. So recap: my two yay or nay was pumpkin spice latte tendies. Cody came with a post-purchase upsell.
What else we got? All right, let's do a few more. What else you got? You got any others?
Oh God, we're keeping it light. What else? I mean, that's a good question. I guess the other important thing that's on my mind: yay or nay, brick and mortar
for direct-to-consumer companies.
Yep.
It depends.
Always.
It depends.
Always. Big it depends guy.
What about you?
I mean, I think that almost anything, I think if it's done right, it's very different than the BS, chaotic, pop up, quickly, toss in. I think that so much of it is an extension of brand. And I think everything with brand has to be done well. And I think about this across, this question comes up in the world of CX all the time. Like, should I offer phone support? Only offer things you can crush. If you can only do email, do that really well. And it's the same thing with this. Like, if you only have the bandwidth or the team or the capacity to do D2C, do D2C really well. Don't sell in 27 other retail partners and half-ass all of it. Don't do your own brick and mortar if you can't crush it. That's I guess that's what I'd say.
Yeah, again, it's like direct consumer is really, really hard. So, it's not necessarily a advantage or really a business strategy anymore, right? A lot of people say it's just a channel. So most brands are going to have to go wholesale. I think it's just about figuring out what's the right strategy for you, what's the right partners for you, when do you do it, how do you do it while preserving. And I think that's when brand becomes even more important, right? Obviously, you could lose brand if you're getting lost against Sephora, but if you're going into Sephora, you're going to Target, like you need to still drive brand digitally and understand that so you can kind of stand out in these other places. Don't expect being in Target to be discovery for you. I think that, and I think I guess question for you is just kind of based on that. If a company, direct-to-consumer company, sells into Target, are they still a DTC company or not?
Oof. No.
I don't think so either.
Is that going to get us canceled? Is that a hot take?
I don't know. Or do you think it's a percentage? I tweeted about it a while ago. I feel like people are pretty divisive on it. I think a lot of people, I would say the majority of the people still say yeah. I think it depends. They think it depends on what your breakdown is, and if you're mostly direct-to-consumer,
I'm going to call
then it
bullshit.
counts. What do you think? What do you call them? They're just a business? They're just CPG?
They're an omni-channel business.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Amazon, yay or nay?
So, I mean, this is I guess the recurring theme throughout our entire episode that all these things are great for dollars, right? So it's being in Target, great for dollars. Being on Amazon, great for dollars. if you have the ability, and I think Jones is one of the few brands that I've ever come across that have this ability to just go wide, right? Like we have this unfair advantage. Bobby Brown is a legend. Like we have the ability to go wide. And I think that, will we ever at a certain point in time say like Amazon's great because we've covered X% of the country? Cody's shaking his head no for those that aren't watching this. Eli's saying, I don't know. But I think there's like, there are a bunch of reasons why I hate Amazon. It's also like one of the biggest the biggest marketplace in the world. There are a zillion searches every day. But if you don't need it and you want to build a legendary lifelong brand, like if you don't need it, I don't know. I hate it. Like I hate the idea that customers are, purchasing from this third party. You don't have the ability to talk to them. It's like, oh, well, Eli, we have a way where we can get the data. Like, okay, Jared, good for you. I like the idea of talking to the customer on Gorgeous. How does that sound, Jeffrey?
Eli and I are DTC purists for the most part. We're big brand guys.
I'll say this, like we've, Olipop was 70%, about 65-70% retail. And they crushed it. And you don't have that handle on brands like you do. You don't have there's so much crossover between like people find in retail then come to D2C. You can track that with a post-purchase survey. Now flip the switch, right? Somebody came to D2C and then started purchasing at Sprouts. How do you track that? You can send them an email saying like, hey, we see that you left. Did you start purchasing in retail? We've done that and we found that the 50-something% of customers that didn't repurchase started buying in retail. And then we come to Eli and we say, Eli, you're the retention guy. What the hell are you doing? Like thousands of customers left. And it's like, well, 56% are buying at retail. So I think there's like the data piece that just gets very hard to sparse together. Yes, there are tools like Numerator where you can pull people that shop in retail. Yes, there are post-purchase survey tools, but I think the efficiency of the data gets difficult. Now, brands like Olipop, it costs them a lot of money to ship. Very different than Jones Road, which is shipping very light things with much higher margins. So I think every brand is very different. But in a perfect world where I had the ability of building a $1 zillion 27-figure brand in D2C or going into retail, and I had the glorious opportunity to just choose D2C and grow to 8 figures year one, I love D2C.
Agreed with that. Attribution tools, yay or nay?
I'm gonna get canceled. I'm not saying it. I'm not gonna have any opinion.
What's actually all right? Be
I think
honest.
you should go with Facebook. I think just look at Facebook. Whatever they tell you.
As a not Facebook guy, as a not acquisition guy, what is your take on the silly debates on Twitter?
I think that growth guys just love to make these very binary bullshit across the top. Like if you don't do this, you're dead. Never touch this. Always use that. And I think that most of these people need to take a deep breath. In general,
I would agree with that. That's fair. I agree with that. I think that's kind of my issue with the current talks about attribution is like people will say, and again, I know I'm guilty for kind of starting this whole conversation a few weeks ago, but like, hey, this is the attribution tool I'm using. And for whatever reason, people take that to mean like attribution tools are everything. And it's like, that was never said. I think there are a few people, right? And you're probably not familiar with this, but people listening might be with like Alex Becker and Hyros. That's like an attribution tool in Wicked Reports. And they're like, oh, we completely fix iOS. We get your ads working better. And it's like, they make claims that aren't true. And like, you should definitely stay away from those. But understand that like, there could be value in it, certain parts of it. It doesn't mean that they are the end all be all. You don't have to use them. But people are having success with them, and there are people that are having success without them. There are people 100%. That are not having success with them, and there are people that are not having. So it's not going to be the thing that fixes it for you, but can it be helpful for you? Yes. I don't get. No one is saying they're solving attribution. There's no such thing as solving attribution. It's just another data point to help you triangulate what is actually happening in your business and help you understand which channels are working, and again, get a little bit more data to help you make a decision. But I don't believe in having a North Star metric or solving for attribution.
Two things. First of all, triangulate is a 3-point Scrabble word. Extra points for that. Number two, I agree with you, and I think that's what Ash from Obvi was saying. He's like, it doesn't mean that you have to use it. It's like if you have a way to validate your hypothesis based on a third-party tool, knock yourself out. Like, you can only look at Facebook. You only, and this is coming from somebody that has like no idea about the deepest, darkest parts of attribution drama. But I think that any take that's like never do this, and I'm guilty of that because I say never outsource CX. And now as I'm growing older, I'm like, there are certain instances where it makes sense. Like if you're scaling a team from 0 to 60 and then it's going to go back to 0 in 6 weeks, why should you hire 50 people or 60 people, right? So I think there's it depends is very, very true, but I think people love hot takes because it gets clicks.
Yeah.
We can end with that.
Agreed. I mean, exactly. No one's gonna listen to the very end of it, So no one's gonna know that we said it depends, and we kind of smoothed everything over. They're just gonna hear the beginning part where they're like, never.
Yeah,
so
100%. You never touch it. Do not touch it. But no, I mean, this has been a blast. We have a couple of guests that we're excited about in the next couple of weeks. Cody and I are both traveling, so Cody will be coming to you from Europe, potentially on the next episode. I'm going to be coming to you from Budapest, probably on the next episode. So that's exciting. Special thanks to our sponsors, both Wayflyer and Swag.com, for making this thing happen. We are so stoked. This is going to be a blast, and we appreciate you listening.
Yeah. Anything you want to plug? Where can people find out about you? Where can people kind of learn from you?
I am at Cody Ploff on Twitter. No, I am. So Cody's at Cody Ploff. Check out his newsletter. I'm at Eli Weiss, ELIWEISSS. Got an extra S. And you can check out the pinned tweet. I drop a newsie too. We both do newsies. I'm more on the CX retention side. He's on all things growth. But it's been a blast. We're just out here. The other thing I'll plug is if you are looking for a new job, please check out our jobs board.
So yeah, jonesroadbeauty.com. You can go to the footer, probably jonesroadbeauty.com/careers. We're hiring a director of brand marketing, affiliate marketing manager, videographer, like a marketing project manager.
COO.
Eli, you got a COO. Come work with Eli and I. Be a COO. Tell us what to do. What else we got? Anything else? I think that's a good amount.
Did you say brand marketer, you said?
Yeah, director of brand. Yeah, so if you are interested in any of those, check out the job page or email Eli or Cody at Jones Road Beauty or Eli at jonesroadbeauty.com.
Namaste.
All right, peace.